Welcome to Finest Worksongs.
Welcome to Finest Worksongs.
Oh, man. We just started it already.
Oh, the waterworks have begun. So should we do that over?
Right, let's try it again. All right. Welcome to Finest Worksongs. My name is Matt.
My name is also Matt.
Today we're going to be talking about the mats.
That's right.
The replacements. That is their nickname. Actually, before we get to that, you alluded to this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Last hurrah.
We're coming to the end of the road.
It's been a good run.
5.5 years.
129 epipods?
I think so.
I will say this is a little awkward because I did just today land our first sponsor.
Whoa, what?
I know. I've been working on it for all this time.
Oh, man. It came through. Who is it?
Melting Pot.
Oh.
They were like, you know what? Our sales have increased 0.5% over the last 5 years, and the only thing we can attribute it to is Finest Worksongs.
They had some like AI thing that searches podcasts.
Yeah, like crawls through the internet.
Yeah. We found this one that talks about y'all all the time.
Oh, we don't need to listen to it. Let's just give them some money.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's fine.
I'm sure it's good. No, you guys are gross, but we'll take your money.
Yeah, even retroactively. These epipods don't go away. I mean, they're still going to be out there.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean,
we're not deleting everything.
The bad news is, Matt, now you have to go back in and add in the sponsorships of 129 epipods.
Gosh.
The spot they're sending to work in is actually a VHS tape, which means you got to pull the audio off a VHS tape, digitize it, and then slap it into the podcast. But hey, it's worth it.
It's never like gift certificates. It's just coupons.
Just coupons.
Yeah, so we still have to spend money there.
That's right.
But we're closing it out. Had a great run. Had a great season.
Has been a good season.
Although season 10 kind of never ended.
That's true.
Actually, it's been almost a year. We started with Usher, with Madison Hill.
Yeah.
One of our only two-time guests.
Rare two-timer.
Along with Troy Fairbank.
Yep.
And then we did Led Zeppelin with Max Trujillo.
Yep.
That was really fun.
That was fun.
Yeah. Cyndi Lauper.
She's So Unusual.
Yeah.
That was a good one to do.
That was great.
Fight Back Ladies with Alanis Morissette.
Alanis. Tame Impala that was a good one.
That
I
was
enjoyed
fun.
that.
That was
So
May.
really 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So really 5. And then we got to the summer. We felt like
We're like, how can we mail this in for a bit?
More just felt guilty that our
Yeah.
season was usually like 13 episodes, and then we did 5. And so we were like, let's just keep it going through the summer. And so we did our summer jams.
And that was so much fun.
We would just pick one song and just go back and forth. And we'd get together and record like 4 episodes in a row.
Yep.
And then it was at the end of the summer, we decided to wrap it up.
That's right.
We'd already decided on Hall & Oates.
Naturally.
And so then we really said, we can only choose one more.
Yes.
And we knew it was going to be Pet Sounds.
The funny thing about Pet Sounds, August of 2019, when we started this thing, I think I posted on like my own personal Facebook. I was like, hey, we've started this new show. You know, we're looking for album ideas to talk about.
Yeah.
Tim Hunter, previous guest who was on our Willie Nelson Epipod, said on that date, August 24th, no Pet Sounds because then it would be over.
Wow.
So that's pretty prophetic there.
He sealed the deal.
He's the Nostradamus of Finest Worksongs.
And then we did our Christmas Epipod.
Yep.
Matt, I got to apologize.
Finally.
For everything.
5 years in.
I gave you a really hard time for how you pronounced the word.
Well, to be fair, I think I pronounced it 4 different ways in about 60 seconds.
Winceless.
Winceless.
Yeah, I was giving you a hard time because you said like Wenceslas.
Wenceslas.
And I said that it was Winceless.
Yeah.
To which you said Winceless. Then you sent me.
I was perturbed about it. I didn't let it go. I had to find out who was right. So I did what any logical person would do. I went to Google and asked for a pronunciation of it.
According to Google, this is how it's pronounced.
Wenceslas.
Boom!
Oh!
Snap.
I was wrong.
Yep.
Wenceslas.
Let's hear it slower.
Wenceslas.
Rubbing it in.
Yep.
Here's the British pronunciation.
Wenceslas.
Oh, we're both wrong.
We're both right and wrong.
Wenceslas.
Lord Paddington Wenceslas.
I was wrong. I mocked you. I'll never do it again.
Mainly because after this, we're never speaking again.
Right. Yeah, it was a great season. And actually, Matt, I have a surprise for you. This year, we got a Spotify Wrapped for our podcast.
Oh, my.
We've never gotten one before.
No, we haven't.
I think it's the first year they're doing it for podcasts.
Which is great since like Spotify has decided to pull off like something like 45% of our episodes.
Seriously.
This is fun.
Yeah, you're probably not even hearing this on Spotify. That's why I put the numbers in front.
Yes.
Because you can see now how many are missing.
And then you see they jump from like 114 to like 128. And it's like, oh, that's weird.
Because I ran into someone and it was in the spring and they were like, are you going to be putting out any more? I was like, yeah, we just put out like 4 since then. All right. Our top episode was James Taylor Greatest Hits. We were streamed in 48 countries, man.
Whoa. And Canada?
This is my favorite. We were a top 10 show for almost 800 fans.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm actually very proud of that.
We are top 5 show for 647 fans. Number 1 show for 296 people. Almost 300 people were their number 1 show.
That's amazing.
You guys are wonderful. Anyway, that's our wrap.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks for those of you who listen on Spotify. And there's more epipods out there. Before they take this down, hear us.
One of my favorite segments we've been able to do for the last 5 years is Kenny Gmail. Kenny Gmail is our opportunity to share a matter of the heart that maybe someone has, a question about, how the sausage is made with a podcast, or maybe just some really deep spiritual question you might have. Yeah, so this is our last Kenny Gmail ever. And so it makes sense that it would be a really good one, one that's
it's going to be like tears on the page.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This one is in relation to our Shania Twain Come On Over Epipod.
Love it.
Julia writes, the other day, while I was at work, my sister stole my iPad and tested to see if it can survive a 25-foot drop.
Whoa.
Just so she can be a YouTube sensation.
Oh, my gosh.
My Apple iPod is now broken, and she has 83 views. I know this is completely off topic, but I had to share it with someone.
Siblings, am I right?
Yeah, man.
Why are they telling us and not their parents? Are we father figures?
I think we might be.
These listeners?
Someone's like, what if I drop this iPad 25 feet, if it's going to break or not?
I would watch that.
You would watch that all day?
Because I'm not watching to see if it'll survive. I want to see an iPod smash.
You want to just see it just shatter.
Yeah. Also, who has an iPod anymore anyway?
83 views is a big price to pay for taking your siblings' iPod and smashing it.
I'm glad that our last Kenny Gmail was so heartfelt.
Yeah. And they all have been, honestly. Every single one of the Kenny Gmails has been a breath of fresh air, sincere,
authentic,
earnest. I mean, I'm going to miss that.
You guys pour your hearts out.
You really do. So thank you, Julia, for sharing that.
Matt, I think this is the appropriate time for me to give this gift to you. This is a book I had created of every Kenny Gmail.
That is so cool. I cannot wait to flipping through it right now. There's so many Kenny Gmails. It's so good. Thank you. That's it. That's the last Kenny Gmail.
All right, we heard from all the fans. Now it's time for share time.
Tonight, walking in Memphis.
Her voice just gets more gravelly and deeper as the years go.
That was the Mark Cohn version.
Cohn Zone.
We couldn't have our last Epipod goodbye without playing the GOAT of mixtapes. Now it's time for share time.
Man, I am tonight, walking in Memphis.
Share time is our opportunity to just kind of share out something that's maybe on our mind, something that's we want to pass on to you, the Finest Work fans.
Yeah, and I got to say, Matt, you shared about Detroiters a few weeks ago. I heed your share times.
Thank you. Finally.
Yeah. Well, if you're talking about a book I read 6 years ago, I'm not going to go read it again, but
that's fair.
But I have been loving Detroiters and been telling you about every episode that I watch. So thank you for that.
I'm glad. That makes me so happy.
Listeners, I've been saving this share time until our last Epipod. Because you know what? For those almost 300 of you that were your number 1 show, what are y'all going to listen to?
You got like now talk to your kids and stuff.
My gift to you is my absolute favorite podcast, and that is 60 Songs That Explain the 90s, hosted by Rob Harvilla.
So funny.
He is a music journalist. The first half of each episode is talking about an album, and the second half is with a guest. Mm-hmm. I love every minute of it.
Yes.
It went to 120 episodes. And so it says 60 songs, but there's 120 of the 90s. Took a break, and he has just started 60 Songs That Explain the 90s, the 2000s.
And it's so wonderful.
Definitely listen to the 90s. I'll recommend a few. First of all, the Third Eye Blind one is hilarious.
Okay.
The Whitney Houston one is fantastic.
Okay.
When I heard the REM one, it's like we're a little bit,
We're too close to it.
yeah, are you going to get it right? He nailed it. He gets it. He
Yep.
gets REM.
That was a great one.
Now, I will say this, and y'all trust me on this one. Don't listen to the second half, because he had someone on who hates the song Night Swimming, and he just thought it would be funny to have this person on. And he said afterwards, he will never do that again, because the fans of the podcast were like, that was terrible. Don't do that. And so trust me, it's not like, I want to listen because it's a car wreck. It's just bad.
Yeah.
And it kind of ruins the sweetness of the episode.
Yeah.
The Bonnie Raitt one made me tear up.
Oh, wow.
Multiple episodes of this podcast have made me tear up.
Nice.
Like, he has gotten me at times.
Yeah.
And so 60 Songs That Explain the 90s. It's the best podcast.
The episode he did on Mr. Brightside was also one of the best things I've ever listened to. You can't really listen to it with your kids, but it's hysterical. And he just does such a marvelous job drilling down into why these songs were or are as big as they continue to be.
Yeah. All right, Matt, do you have a share time for us?
Late yesterday, one popped in my head. I thought might be a good one. It's real short. It's kind of a full circle moment here. You know, our first Epipod ever was REM's Automatic for the People. Just yesterday, Kathleen Edwards, singer-songwriter, musician, put out a cover version of Sweetness Follows from Automatic for the People. And it's a really pretty, fairly stripped down version of that song. I think she does a really nice tribute to that song without trying to muddy it up, reinvent it. On her social media account, she gave a really nice tribute to how important that album is to her and still continues to be, and why she wanted to cover a song like Sweetness Follows.
It's these little things, they can pull you under. Live your life filled with joy and wonder. I always knew this all together. Thunder was lost in our little lives. Sweetness follows.
This has been Share Time.
Man, I am tonight, walking in Memphis.
You may have noticed the runtime on this Epipod. Generally, we land around 45 minutes, and that was not a strategy. It just consistently happened that we would record for a long time and then kept landing around 42, 45.
A nice digestible amount of time to get into it, but not bore you guys to death with minutia you don't care about.
And it just became clear that that's about how much...
That's how much good content we have.
That's it, yeah. We're not promising this is going to be good, but this is our last Epipod, and so this is our kitchen sink one. We're going to touch on episodes that we didn't do, guests that we didn't have. We're going to talk about everythgoing, and we will talk about the replacements. And so if you're a replacements fan and you're like coming here to check this out, then
so sorry.
Yeah, sorry. You're going to get a lot with it. Although I'm not doing a movie memory. For longtime listeners, you'll know that we would do our memory of an album. The night before our first recording, I was laying in bed thinking about it and came up with this idea. So that when Matt asked me my memory of REM's Automatic for the People, I started telling a story from my childhood, which was a story from The Karate Kid. And I wish that I had videoed to get the look on his face when I talked about getting beat up until this old man jumped in and started beating up these teenagers for me. From then on, it was over 100 Epipods that I did the movie memory and then let it go. So I'm not doing one of those today, I will say.
That's understandable. I mean, I don't think there's anything left to do at that point.
I did a lot of movies. There's only 100 movies.
That is well documented, and on record, there are only 100 movies.
Yeah. This is our listener's choice to wrap up the Finest Worksongs podcast. Thank you to all of you who did submissions. We appreciate that you did a write-up or a pitch. For those of you who recorded it, thank you.
Yeah.
So, Matt, how did it go?
We were so impressed, as always, with the submissions that you all sent in. Kyle Hipp wanted us to talk about El Camino, about the Black Keys.
That would have been fun.
Both of my daughters submitted.
That was great.
Britton, my 16-year-old, wanted us to do a Blur album. She didn't care which one. She just wanted us to talk about Blur.
Amazing.
Sienna, my oldest, wanted us to do Noah Kahan's Stick Season. Whitney Chambers, she got the previous guest exemption to move into the semifinals. She wanted us to talk about the album Nocturnal by Una. Your boy, Doug, suggested REM Monster, which would have been a nice bookend. The two finalists, the wonderful accent of Leo, who want us to talk about The Replacements' Let It Be.
Yeah.
And then Katie Hip, she had a dog help pick her selection.
That was amazing.
That's sliding through to the finals if you're working a puppy into it one. And she wanted us to talk about Hosier's debut album. It was super close.
Down to the wire.
A vote or two separation, I think, in the end. But in the end, yeah, congratulations to Leo. Thank you, Leo, for submitting Let It Be by The Replacements. Kudos to Leo also. Not only did he just say, hey, I'd really like for you guys to talk about this album, the rationale he gave was really like everything we look for when we're wanting to talk about an album. It was a classic album with great songs, interesting lyrics to talk to, some senior lyrics you could pull from, cover song. I mean, he really hit all the high points for why we would want to talk about an album like this.
All right, well, let's get into it. The Replacements' Let It Be kicks off with I Will Dare. All right, The Replacements from Minneapolis began in 1978. You've got Bob Stinson, who was 19 at the time, who had a half-brother named Tommy, who was 11.
Mm-hmm.
Bob had a rough upbringing. If you hear a scratching sound, that's just my new puppy chewing his dog bed. Yeah, Bob, actually a very sad upbringing.
Yeah.
If you get into Bob Ware's book, he survived sexual, physical abuse. And so with this tragic story, he ended up going into juvenile detention and just had a really rough upbringing. And when he saw his younger brother going a similar route, I don't know about the abuse, but of
just kind of getting in trouble and
yeah,
going down a bad path.
He gave him a bass guitar, which is just such a great move. And also, if you're 11 and your 19-year-old brother gives you a bass guitar, you're going to play that.
Yeah, it's like the coolest thing a brother could do.
It really is. Bob met Chris Mars, and the three of them formed a band called Dog Breath. Paul Westerberg was a janitor at that time. He would walk home and hear them practicing. And he had been playing music himself. And this is kind of neat because he knew Chris Mars.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Mars invited, hey, come jam with my band. Westerberg didn't know it was the same band.
Gotcha.
And so was pleasantly surprised when he showed up, and that's who it was. Down the line, they changed their name to The Replacements. The idea being that if the main act doesn't show, this is who you call in.
It makes me also think about like Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's kind of this self-deprecation. The Heartbreakers were like, we know we're not handsome guys.
Yeah.
We're going to call ourselves the Heartbreakers for fun. And the Replacements were like, we'll step in if who you really want to see doesn't show up.
That's the perfect name for them, as it turns out.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Westerberg shared a demo with Peter Jesperson in May of 1980. So that's mind-blowing that they started so early. And this guy was just the manager of a record store and had started a small label. Apparently he loved it. Like he was just over the moon with Paul Westerberg and said, let's record. And so they played maybe one show, and then all of a sudden they're going to record, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Even in that scene, that's wild, especially because now if you've got a laptop, you can figure out how to record a band.
Not then.
Maybe a 4-track, but still. In that time, Husker Du was coming out.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the hardcore scene that was developing. You've got new wave coming out. You've got punk rock. And their first albums are like that. And Bob Stinson apparently is like really pushing in that direction in terms of rough and rowdy. And so their first couple albums had that feel. But one of the threads that we're going to see is that we could probably say at every step of this epipod, they just didn't care.
Yeah.
Like they really didn't care. And so Paul Westerberg talked about how one thing he didn't love in the hardcore scene or in the punk scene is that there were rules. And so in the scene that's supposed to be anti-establishment,
ruleless, lawless,
there were still rules that you had to follow. They were so not caring that they would just do whatever. They would go and play country songs to people with mohawks who showed up. They would basically, it seemed like try and self-destruct because who are you to tell me what to do? Which is so much more punk rock than the people who obeyed the punk rock rules.
They were so contrarian, such a more punk rock mindset than you got to wear these kinds of leather jackets and wear your hair like this. You can't have big hair metal hair. That's not punk rock. It's like, oh, they didn't care.
They outpunked punk rock.
Yeah.
Their shenanigans are legendary.
Yes.
Even more so, I think, than like your hair metal bands.
Yeah.
Because it felt performative, whereas with the Replacements, it felt a little bit self-destructive,
Yeah.
not in a great way.
They weren't putting on an act just for the art of it and the show of it. That's how they were.
Even when they opened for REM, they would try and antagonize the crowd and they just didn't care. They were drunk all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But then they would play for 50 people at a VFW and give it their all.
Right.
And play a perfect set because those people didn't care.
It's amazing.
It's so punk rock.
It is.
It's not even punk rock because, like we just said, punk rock has rules. It is so rock and roll. Are these guys the most rock and roll band ever?
They may very well be. If you distill it down to attitude and the anarchist kind of rock and roll attitude.
Yeah.
They might be.
The minute you get too big and bombastic is when you like disconnect from the fans.
Yeah.
So they never got that big.
Yeah.
But if you don't care at all,
Mm-hmm.
you're not hurting and you're not trying to get out of this godforsaken town. And so they were both like, we got to get out of this place. And also, you're not going to tell us what to do.
Yeah.
They didn't care, but they did.
Yeah.
They self-sabotaged, but still wrote sincerely. I don't know. They might be the most rock and roll band.
They might be.
Yeah. So speaking of REM, Peter Buck loved them.
Yeah.
How did he get involved?
I think initially he was going to produce this album. And I think the timing didn't work out, if I remember correctly, on that. Peter Buck does play guitar on the song. Is that the fastest finger work Peter Buck ever did? He sounds like a little bit like Joe Satriani here.
Are you talking about this guy?
Yeah, that's the guy.
That's one of the drops that I have waiting.
Oh, it's so good.
I don't remember what episode it was that I used that for.
I can't remember either, but it was just like we were talking about how it's not necessarily about the speed. It's
That's
technical,
right.
but I can't remember who we were talking about.
I don't either, but
Probably Peter Buck.
I'll tell y'all what I'm going to miss most are the nights that I'm sitting there scouring every Joe Satriani guitar solo, which is every Joe Satriani song from start to finish,
Yeah.
trying to find the most Satriani moments. So that was one. Here's
Okay.
another.
Is that different?
Well, here's the first.
Oh, okay. Different pitch. I get
Yep.
it.
And the second.
Oh, yeah. I hear the difference.
And one more. See if you can tell the difference. It's like you're at the eye doctor and they're like,
Yeah, like A,
is it-
B.
Yeah,
B,
A. I think that's what I ended up using.
Is that the same song?
Hey, this is Marshmallow. Me and the Duke will be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Picture this, a romantic evening, holding hands across a candlelit table as a server delivers plate after plate of delicious gourmet food, cooked by a team of culinary artists. Gross, right? Now, imagine being tucked into a cozy booth, a stainless steel bowl of lukewarm Swiss between you and your loved one, wafts of fat slowly drifting up between your gaze. Ooh, yes, cheese. It's 11 a.m., and there's a plate of raw meat to share. And you don't have to be back to the office until noon. Now we're dipping. This year, treat that special someone to Valentine's Day brunch at the Melting Pot. For only $120, you'll experience the magic of meat dipped in cheese. Stale bread dipped in cheese. More meat dipped into even more cheese. And the best part? You get to cook it yourself, one bite at a time. Hold up. Did someone say strawberries? How naughty. But it's Valentine's Day at the Melting Pot, so go ahead and dip those bad berries into some warm chocolate. This dessert costs extra, but you can't help but lose yourself in the moment. We'll dip you there. The Melting Pot. located right next to the 440 Beltline, conveniently within 700 feet of Wake Forest Hospital.
Now, back to our show. This is the transitional album where Paul Westerberg really becomes the leader of the band. And that's also why a lot of critics have talked about this being their best one, because it still has that Bob Stinson presence, and they're not letting Paul Westerberg go too far down the whole college rock singer-songwriter track, which when he does is his solo stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah. I wasn't overly familiar with the album going into it.
Mm-hmm.
I found myself going, oh, this song's really good. Oh, this is a Paul Westerberg song. Oh, this song is really good. Oh, it's written by Paul Westerberg.
Yeah.
And there are some good full band songs on here for sure. But I think you're right on your point that it's got that replacement sound to it. And it comes across as a really strong album, I think, because of that.
They do have moments that harken back to the old days, such as Tommy gets his tonsils out.
Open wide, the doctor's here. Everything is fine. Got nothing to fear. Strap him down. We're out of gas. Stop your bawling, you little brat. Get this over with. I pee off in an hour. Didn't want to shove me yesterday. I took a shower. Get this over with. I pee off in an hour. My Cadillac's running. It's rip, 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 now. 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 Open wide, you little snot.
It's hard to hear this and not think, that's Nirvana.
Oh, you're right.
I don't think you get to Nirvana without the replacements.
Nah, you got to have that pre-adolescent, angry at the world, angry at society, but it like sort of funny things you get angry about. Like the doctor is going to take your tonsils out and he's worried about his tea time and the sloppiness kind of it.
But still the melody of Paul Westerberg. That's what came in through grunge. Otherwise, it's just going to be hardcore.
Yeah.
They could have stayed in that hardcore sort of realm. It's almost like anytime someone tried to peg them, they would intentionally blow it up. But also, you got to imagine Peter Jesperson, who was their manager again, the guys up, Paul especially, to the Beatles, Big Star.
Yep.
You know, that's a huge influence on them. I mean, they wrote a song called Alex Chilton.
Yeah.
And also, he's going to be growing as a songwriter. I Will Dare. I think that's one of their best songs.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's catchy. It's got a little bop to it. It's fun. And it's like a nice gateway song to the replacements.
Yeah. Next track, Favorite Thing.
Yeah, kid, it's a feeling, a penny of flash. Yeah, Dad, you're rocking real bad. Don't break your neck with the fall of that yeah, I know, I love, I feel. Smoke, I drink, I'm feeling swell. Yeah, I hear things hip. Rock on, gimmer, sing a shit.
It's hard not to hear this and hear Jeff Tweedy, Uncle Tupelo.
That's a really good point.
It's hard not to hear Whiskey Town. I just think they have influenced so many people.
And again, it's like 2 songs in and you're getting this idea of who they are as a band. This isn't just a alternative college rock band. It's not a punk band. It's not a hard rock heavy metal band, which is also influenced in them. They're not blues. They're not just like a bar band playing in bars. It's hard to pin them down, but they're putting something out there that I was actually kind of surprised, again, kind of coming into it blind, how old this album is. Because there's parts of this album, particularly these first 2 songs, that sound way more current. And maybe it's because it's sort of the reverse engineering of it, where I'm hearing these, like you said, and thinking, oh, this could be early Wilco. This could be bands from like the mid to late 90s. To your point, you can just hear the influences. It's just hard to describe their sound.
It's similar to Big Star in that when I hear this and think, this came out in 1984, that's mind-blowing. The first time that I looked up Big Star, because as we talked about before, if you get into REM, you're going to make your way to Big Star. I remember going back and listening and feeling like this band is actually from the 80s.
Yeah.
but they got a time machine because there's no way that you were making this music in 1971.
Yeah.
There are very few bands that when you hear that think,
Yeah.
how were they not the biggest thing ever? And they weren't because it was so far ahead of its time. It made its impact to the next decade of bands. And I think that that's the big thing with the Replacements. They were underrated. Critics loved them, but they didn't sell a ton of albums. They never broke huge.
Yep.
They had a following, but I think their impact shows in their ethos and then in the grunge and 90s alternative country type movement.
Well, and then when they do have a chance to break, they go on Saturday Night Live.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Replacements.
During the guitar solo, off mic, Paul Westerberg yells to Bob Stinson, but calls him the F word.
Yeah.
Lorne was notorious for like, you're not allowed to, we are live.
Yeah.
And he knew the show rested on it. This is, I think, his first season back.
After the disastrous previous producer.
Yeah. So he's got a lot to prove. The Pointer Sisters had canceled. And so the Replacements were the replacement for the Pointer Sisters, which we've talked about the Pointer Sisters before,
man.
Matt. It's hard not to think that maybe some substances
There
were
might have been
involved.
something going on.
Yeah. But here's the thing. You know, they talked about, oh, it didn't go well. They sounded terrible. That sounded
That sounded
amazing.
really good.
And they're wasted.
Yeah.
They're so good.
Completely blitzed.
Yeah.
And it sounded really good.
Yeah, but they get banned
They
from
get banned.
SNL.
I guess years later, Westerberg gets to come back as a solo artist and he plays a Replacement song.
Once again, Paul Westerberg.
Writes you a letter tomorrow. Tonight I can't hold a pen. Someone's got a stamp that I can borrow. Promise not to load the address again. Lights that flash in the evening through a hole in the drapes. Oh, I can't wait. Jesus rise beside me.
Which was a kind of a cool full circle moment. But it is funny now to think of all the things that can make it through SNL nowadays and just the proliferation of inappropriate words that you can just find at any point throughout the course of your day.
Oh my gosh.
And
yeah.
at probably roughly midnight on the East Coast, happen to off mic say something and that gets you banned.
Right.
And it didn't help that I forget who the host was that week.
Harry Dean Stanton.
They got Harry Dean Stanton, like he got drunk with them as well
Yeah.
beforehand. So, you know,
G.E. Smith of the Saturday Night Live band, he said that they were so drunk that on the way to the stage for the first song, mind you, Bob Stinson tripped, fell, and broke his guitar.
in the hallway.
G.E. Smith had to loan him one of their spare
So
instruments.
that wasn't even his guitar, and they still
Yeah.
sounded amazing.
And he still
and
kills
he, and he was so drunk he fell and broke his guitar.
And he sounded incredible, dude. They land on the list of bands who have been banned by SNL.
okay.
Famously, the one that I was aware of was Elvis Costello.
Yes.
So Elvis Costello was told to play a certain song.
Calling Mr. Oswald with the swastika tattoo. There is a vacancy waiting. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, there's no reason to do this song here. Radio. 1, 2. might not dial to anything my radio advised.
Which is just a big middle finger to all of broadcasting.
Yeah, right.
You know, and part of it, you wonder if how much of it is Lorne's control of the show. He's got to have a reputation for a live show that advertisers are going to be safe to advertise on the show. You know, so that's one thing. But also, how much of it is a power thing?
Right.
Sinead O'Connor. I was watching this when it happened.
Ripped up the Pope's picture.
In the dress rehearsal, she had ripped up a different picture, something benign. There was a band called Fear in 1981. Rage Against the Machine. The host was a Republican billionaire. I don't remember who it was, but why would you pair these people together? You're asking for it.
Yeah.
They hung American flags upside down on their amps as they went on stage. SNL staff had to run out and take them off. Cypress Hill lit a joint on stage.
Pretty on brand.
But even the other guys in the band were like, we told them not to do it. Why would you do that? You know, but they got banned. David Bowie got banned, Matt.
Really?
Yeah. Instead of playing Telling Lies, they played Scary Monsters. It's not a bad song, but it turned out to be just a big middle finger to Lorne because Bowie said that he knew Lorne Michaels had grown, quote, terrified of the song because of his past life issues. Lorne told me how it was the darkest period of his life, and he described how much cocaine he did while listening to Scary Monsters. Just mountains and mountains of the stuff.
Gosh.
Sometimes straight off the record sleeve. Those were his words. I want to be clear about that, said David Bowie.
Oh, wow.
Those are the people who were kicked off of Saturday Night Live.
That's interesting. But it's fascinating to think about these bands and artists who, like in the case of Cypress Hill, it sounds like the rest of the guys were like, well, why would you do that? That's dumb. Whereas even early days like Ed Sullivan and Elvis, like they're showing them from above the waist. Or even your favorite band, The Doors.
Oh,
the story of Ed Sullivan, people saying, light my fire. Like, how about you just change it to, girl, we can't get any better. They're like, oh, okay, sure. Then, then they go on stage and, I'm sure it's been dramatized, but if you watch the Val Kilmer movie, Morrison looks into the camera and says, higher. People in the booth just go nuts.
They lose their minds.
Famously, you'll never play the Ed Sullivan Show again.
Which Replacements didn't go on TV for, I think, 3 years after that. And so there was some power in what Lorne says. One more thing about the Elvis Costello. Do you remember when he came back on with the Beastie Boys?
Yes.
I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but there's just really no reason to do this song here tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I just remember not knowing the original story.
Yeah.
And then when they did that, it was just so...
I was like, whoa, what is going on?
It was so cool.
Yeah.
Elvis Costello is someone that we did not cover that was on my list. I lived in Richmond and I was working at Outback Steakhouse.
Nice.
You've seen the movie Office Space. They have the little pins on there.
Flair.
Flair. And it wasn't a Chili's or TGI Fridays or whatever where Flair was big, but you could put stuff on your apron. This waitress there had an Elvis Costello pin and I was like, Elvis Costello? This is 1998. At the time, all I could think about is like the song Veronica and some of the cheesy stuff that he'd put out. And I was like, Elvis Costello. And she's like, yeah, he's my man. Have you heard this year's model? And I was like, no. She brought it in for me the next day, gave it to me on vinyl.
Nice.
And I took it home, blew my mind because I just thought, how have I never known about this Elvis Costello?
Right.
Yeah. So since then have loved him and really wanted to do this year's model. That was an album that we didn't get to.
That would have been fun to do.
It would have been cool. Let's keep rolling. Here's another Paul Westerberg penned song called Unsatisfied.
I feel like I backed into the Replacements through Paul Westerberg when we were talking about the early 90s earlier. Mm-hmm. It's hard to talk about that time period and not think about the single soundtrack.
You shooting glances in the
maybe the only one with 2 songs.
Mm-hmm.
And when I listen to Unsatisfied, I can hear the sort of blueprint of his solo stuff. There's such more cohesive pop sensibilities, I think, to it. It sounds like, and it's not just his gravelly voice and how he's singing, but everything combined with the melodies and the chorus and everything sounds to me like what he will eventually get to as a solo artist.
Yeah, there's a Paul Westerberg thing.
Yeah, and part of it's his voice, because he's got that gravelly voice, but
it's the melodic choices he makes.
His voice is not it's sort of like the contrarian. I mean, he doesn't take his husky, gravelly voice and lean into it and not try to hit the high notes. It's on the verge of breaking, but that's what kind of gives the songs some character and some charm to it as well.
This is like a grunge anthem.
Yeah.
It's almost like a whole movement was based off, not necessarily this song, because the feel of it isn't, but the idea of I'm unsatisfied. They're a band for high schoolers. Feeling misunderstood. That's what I mean. Not just like you're immature, but the idea that you just...
No one gets you.
No one gets you. You're trying to figure out life. It's funny because this song was going to be covered by Sunny Day Real Estate when they reunited in 2022. They've never covered any song, to my knowledge. And I couldn't find a version of it. So I don't know if that ended up happening. Sunny Day Real Estate are godfathers of emo. And so here's an emo band saying, we're going to cover this song. Like this idea of unsatisfied is a very emo teenage.
Highly emo.
Yeah. That's another band that I would have wanted to cover, the Sunny Day.
Well, I hope when you announce next week that you're doing a new podcast with a new partner that y'all get to do that. So good luck with that.
Oh my gosh. That would be the dirtiest thing. I kind of want to do it just to like make everybody go, oh, you're such a jerk.
It's time. It's run its course. There's no need to do this anymore.
Yeah. Anyway, let me announce my new podcast.
I mean, this is probably also a good time to announce that I'm finally going to be announcing my own long-awaited podcast.
Yeah.
It's a
what's that?
400 episode deep dive into Benson Mule Days.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So
I can't wait for that. You know that I will be the number one fan of that.
That'll be on my Spotify Wrap next year.
It's just going to be a picture of me.
Just smiling.
So in the very first episode, I said something about not getting a date to the prom.
Yeah.
And you said something like more like not getting a date to Benson Mule Days.
And you were like, wait, what?
Yeah. And then he goes on to say that Benson, the town adjacent to his town, so not even his own hometown, they weren't big enough to have a Mule Days.
Yes.
But they had a mule-based festival every year.
Still do.
Every September. It's still going.
The main thing with Mule Day, people don't understand how valuable the mule was to this area. I mean, the words just don't express how valuable a mule was to this area.
All of us who say we're from Benson will probably hear someone say back, oh, is that where they have Mule Day? People have heard about it far and wide. I know I took a group of students to Europe in 1979, and in the airport in New York, we saw a suitcase with a Mule Day sticker on it, which blew my mind.
You know, they'll go through the McDonald's drive-through on their horses or their wagons, and I just tell people just to take your time and chill. And if you're going to get behind them, you just got to relax and enjoy it.
We never made it to that.
We never made it. It's just chalking up to one of the many things we never got around to doing that we planned to.
But I proceeded to bring it up.
A lot. We had fun with it.
They said this song was kind of half written.
Yeah,
they wrote it in the studio. There's just times when it feels a little off rhythm, which is kind of this whole album.
Yeah.
A landmark album, touted among
the best of all time.
And it's potentially is one of the sloppiest.
Which again speaks to the grunginess of it. Again, we don't care that sounds a little off.
There wasn't an intention to be authentic, though.
Yeah.
It was more like they just didn't think about it. Because later, Bob Stinson said, if we'd put another 5 minutes worth of time into it, it would have sounded 50 times better.
Yeah.
So it's not even like they were like, it's great, don't touch it.
Yeah.
It's a masterpiece in its simplicity.
Yeah,
they were just like, are we done? Let's go drink.
Yeah.
And Westerberg called it overrated, half-baked. And it's one of their anthems.
It's a great song.
It's so good.
It's so good.
I said, as we started, that we're talking about the mats.
Which is short for the placemats.
Yeah. Replacements, placemats, mats. It's such a great nickname, but it's just funny because their actual name is self-deprecating.
Which then gets shortened even more.
It's so fitting that Matt and Matt are covering the mats.
It makes perfect sense. Full circle, baby.
You know, we had nicknames, Matt. guest Whitney Chambers on our Black Crows Shake Your Money Maker gave us 2 nicknames.
I mean, Marshmallow and the Duke sounds really good.
Oh, yeah.
That's our new podcast.
This is going to be Morning Zoo before it's over.
We'll find some fart noises.
Yeah, that's right. Marshmallow and the Duke coming at you for our last Epipod.
Yes.
We wanted to, again, this is the kitchen sink Epipod. We're throwing everything out there. So we want to share with you some of our initial show name ideas.
Nice.
We landed on Finest Worksongs because it's an REM song.
Yep.
REM and the Connells are what brought us together. When we were in Y Guides, that's where we met with our middle daughters who were in the same Y Guides group. Best group ever.
Downtown Dragonflies rule.
Here are some of the names that we emailed back and forth. Matt and Matt Talk Music. Oh my gosh.
That would have been amazing.
Really? Why did we even write that down? That's like...
Bro, are you sitting down for this one?
The Matt's Music Moment.
Oh, alliteration. That was probably mine.
Music Moments with Matt and Matt.
That's probably also mine.
2 bums talk albums. Gosh. Ranking all day. Why didn't we go with that one? Come at me, bro. Here's my favorite. Ears up here, ladies. Radio Free Raleigh.
That's 2 on the nose.
Yeah. We landed on Finest Worksongs.
I think it was a good choice.
I think it was.
Yeah.
And shout out to Steven Shingler who made our artwork.
And recently shared with us the drafts of the logos that he
Yeah.
came up with.
We'll throw that up on Instagram.
Yeah.
Back to the Mats. This one's called 16 Blue.
Drive yourself right up the wall. No one hears and no one calls. It's a boring state. It's a useless wait. I know. Brag about things you don't understand. Girl, the woman, boy, the man, everything's sexually vague. Now you wonder to yourself that you might be gay. Your age is the hardest age. Everything drags and drags. One day, maybe help you through.
We barely talked about the fact that when they started, they had an underage person in the band. And I don't mean underage, like drinking age of 21.
Yeah.
He was like 13
Yeah.
when they started playing.
George Harrison was famously, like 16 when the Beatles started. Tommy Stinson's like the age essentially my son is now.
And touring.
With a brother
Oh my
who's
gosh.
20.
Doing drugs and drinking
Yeah.
and everything.
Getting back to their sort of beginnings, how messed up were things at home that was a better pathway for Tommy Stinson than staying home and potentially getting into trouble? It's like, no, you're going to go on the road with us.
You're going to drop out of middle school, not even high school, you know?
Yeah.
So Paul writes the song about Tommy was 16 and just what it's like being 16. There's not so much that you have to say about his songwriting because it's not like Guy Garvey from Elbow,
Yeah.
where it's you dig into the poetry of it and extol the meaning of his songwriting or Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
It's just so perfect in its simplicity,
Yeah.
capturing what it's like to be 16. That's why this album is such a classic.
There's a working class simplicity and honesty in these lyrics that make it timeless as well. There's something moving and charming in that.
Speaking of Bob Dylan, Matt.
Okay.
Scott Litt,
Yeah.
producer of REM, was producing The Replacements. They wanted to record a parody of Like a Rolling Stone, and they called it Like a Rolling Pin.
It's just Weird Al.
And they were working, exactly. They were working on it in the studio. Bob Dylan comes in. I don't know why he was there, but like, why is he anywhere?
He just
you know?
shows up.
He does just show up.
Yeah.
Dylan comes in. When they finish the song, all he says is, "You guys rehearse much?" And then leaves.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Matt, I reached out to our Bob Dylan expert, Dwayne Davis, who came on for Blood on the Tracks, and then again to represent
Naturally,
Bob Dylan.
We Are the World.
And We Are the World. I sent him this article, and this is what he sent.
That, to me, was like the quintessential Replacements story, which seems like every time they're in the limelight, like on Saturday Night Live or at a concert where a producer shows up to or anything, they always just implode. It really is like quintessential Bob Dylan also. throughout the entire 1980s. He's just lurking everywhere. He's at We Are the World. He's at, of course, Bob Dylan's at a Replacements rehearsal, a recording session. And of course, he has something like elusive, mysterious, condescending, snarky, contrary to the point, to say. He lurks, he speaks, and then he removes himself. It's like him talking to Bruce Springsteen. He just comes up, he says what he's going to say, and then he disappears again, only to appear sometime later in another setting and in another place. So I love it. So I hope you guys have fun and look forward to hearing it.
Thank you, Dwayne.
Yes, thank you, Dwayne. We have appreciated trolling you.
And calling us out and correcting us through the years as well. Yeah.
Gosh, what else to say about the Replacements? We don't talk about how they went on, but this album, this moment, seemed to be incredible and also incredibly influential. Mm-hmm. I think it's worthy of the praise.
I've really enjoyed listening to this album. There's some moments on here that I don't love, but that's part of the charm of them. There's an imperfection to it. There's a not caring element to it. Makes the band what they are, makes the album what it is. It's a really fun album.
All right, now is the time when we challenge one another. If we had to remove a song, which one would it be? The Replacements, what are they going to do? I mean,
they're going to play at your wedding.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
But they're just going to get into the booze 4 hours beforehand.
And just destroy everything.
The rehearsal, when the wedding's still going on and no one else is there, is magical.
That's right.
But then when you show up for the first dance and all this, they're just a train wreck.
That's perfect.
Cursing at your aunt and uncle and calling them names.
Bob Stinson trips and falls into the cake.
It's just a disaster.
That's what they're going to do to you, is play and destroy your wedding if you don't remove a song. So Matt, if you had to, which song would you remove?
The song I would remove from the Replacements Let It Be is We're Coming Out. This is a fine punk song. It's also a kind of a song that the bands that I would have been in 8th grade would have tried to write, because it's 3 power chord kind of song and just play it fast and loud. And this album would be completely fine without the song on it.
Yeah. It's so funny though that they could have, if they wanted to, been a hardcore band on the level of Husker Du wasn't pure hardcore,
right?
But they could have done whatever they wanted. They were that talented.
Mm-hmm. What song would you remove?
I would remove Black Diamond. Actually really like it. There's not a song that I hate on this album, and I think that it's a tough album to remove anything from, because it is what it is. But, if I had to remove one, I'll take off the Kiss song.
What's funny is I was listening to this album this week, and I kept getting this song, and I was thinking, man, this is just such a cheesy hard rock hair metal song. Yeah. And I even thought to myself, it sounds like a Kiss song. And I had no idea it was a Kiss song.
Yeah.
Until I went back and started actually researching it. And I was like, oh, Paul Stanley wrote this song. I can totally see that one being removed.
Okay, now it's time for your senior quote. It's our last senior quote.
Last one.
It's your yearbook picture, your senior year, and you get to pick a quote, which our daughters are, if they haven't, are in the midst of doing. You get to pick a quote. It represents the journey you've been on, the road that lies ahead, or some completely inappropriate lyric from a Replacements song that we haven't talked about yet. Matt, what would your senior quote be from Let It Be?
First of all, speaking of the senior quotes, I was talking to a neighbor of mine whose son is a senior. He said that his son admitted that the senior quote he submitted for the yearbook was TRAF. Now spell it backwards. Which is amazing.
Yeah.
Which is so good. I love that that's still something that someone would do. And it's great. I kind of went around on this one because there are quite a few you could go with from this album. But I ended up landing definitely on the song 16 Blue. For closing out the podcast, the last senior quote, just from 16 Blue, tell my friends I'm doing fine. Just leave it at that.
That's good. That's sweet.
What about you? What's yours?
Mine's from I Will Dare. If you will dare, I will dare. That's kind of what you're doing. You're on these adventures. You're getting into trouble.
Do it, bro. Do it.
Yeah. It's like captures the spirit of high school, which was so very fun.
That makes a lot of sense for a good senior quote. I love it.
All right. 1984 was a big year in rock.
Yes.
We've talked about this a lot. You got Bruce Springsteen. You've got Tina Turner, Private Dancer.
Yes.
Run DMC came out. The Bangles, Cyndi Lauper. That's a huge year of music. REM put out Reckoning, their second album. And even specifically looking at Minnesota, Prince put out Purple Rain.
Not bad.
Husker Du put out Zen Arcade. And The Replacements put out Let It Be. These songs are unfinished. They're out of tune.
Yeah.
They could be sloppy, but still, it is a classic. It was so much fun to review. So, Leo, I'm so glad you won.
Yes.
This was the perfect album for Matt and Matt to talk about the Matts.
Yes.
We were able to really end on such a high note.
It's almost meant to be to have done an album like this. So thank you to Leo for suggesting it. Thanks to everyone who submitted for the listener's choice. And just thanks to everyone for staying with us the last 5 years on this fun little journey.
But we're not done because, Matt, there's so many episodes that we didn't get to.
Yeah.
Folks, we had a list. Matt made his list when we started. I made mine. We had a Google Doc going with potential epipods that we would do. And so I mentioned in the Christmas one, Sufjan Stevens with my friend Ryan Berger. Man, we tried to schedule Sarah Shingler, Steven Shingler's wife, for the Lemonheads.
Yes.
And that would have been
That would have
incredible.
been awesome. Could never get that to work out, mainly because of us, not because of her.
Yeah, exactly. Matt, you never got the Doors.
I never got the Doors. I tried to even subtly kind of insinuate for people to overwhelmingly vote for the Doors for listener's choice, just because I thought it would have been hilarious to make you talk about the Doors.
I would have not enjoyed that whatsoever. My wife Kristen's favorite band growing up was 10,000 Maniacs, so I wanted to have her on for that, or to talk about the Go-Go's.
We wanted to have my wife Charity on to talk about Mumford & Sons.
Yep.
Didn't get to that one.
We didn't get to the Black Album by Jay-Z. We didn't get to Beyonce. Aerosmith was coming to Raleigh. We were going to talk about Aerosmith.
Yeah, that would have been fun.
I would have loved to have Mike Ball, good friend from college and beyond, on to talk about Rattle and Hum.
I'm surprised we never got to the Joshua Tree.
No, that's right.
That's one I thought we would definitely have, and probably on the list I first put together on my own 5 years ago, thinking what albums we would get to. That was probably in the top 2.
Yeah.
I thought we would get to. I wanted to have friend John Stevenson to come on, and we wanted to talk about the Dead Milkmen.
That's right.
That was one we never were able to get to.
I wanted to have on my friend Coop to talk about the Chicks, formerly the Dixie Chicks. He's a huge, huge fan. Matt, we didn't talk about the Pixies.
No, we didn't.
Even though they came up all the time. Because
they come up all the time.
They're such an influence. The Beastie Boys. Paul's Boutique was on, I think, both of our lists.
Yeah.
We never got to Arcade Fire.
Yeah.
I really wanted to talk about the Suburbs.
We never did more than one Beatles album. I think that was the right call.
It was, but if we had to pick one, we would not have chosen Rubber Soul.
Rubber Soul, yeah.
And we talked about that. We said, clearly we're going to be talking about the Beatles, so we're going to start with Rubber Soul.
Yeah.
We would never have talked about that as the only Beatles
Right.
album. Pearl Jam, Pavement, Johnny Cash, Jeff Buckley, who you guys just would have been mad at me because I would talk about how overrated he is and how I'm not a huge fan.
Right.
But I get it.
I would have loved to have talked about Dinosaur Jr. I think that would have been fun. I had Key Lime Pie by Camper Van Beethoven on my list. I think that would have been a fun one. I'm not sure it would have warranted a full epipod.
Which, by the way, the band that I was in college, we recorded in David Lowery's studio in Richmond, and he walked through one time.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I was like, take the Skinheads bowling.
Yeah.
He's like, you're done here.
And he said, do you guys ever rehearse? And walked out.
Here's some others on your list, Matt. Faith No More.
Yeah.
David Gray, Matt.
I would have liked to have done that one.
I wanted to talk about the Get Up Kids, Modest Mouse. Hello? Will you come down here real quick? Everybody, it's MC. She just got home from school. We're recording our final epipod of Finest Worksongs. No, come on in. Will you tell the story of what the twins are going to do?
Yes. Into the mic?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I wear the headphones?
Yeah.
I think it's part of the experience. Okay, so I'm on the yearbook staff at my school, which means I get access to all of the forms that we have because I'm an editor. And I would love to look at the form for the senior quotes because I think that some of the ones people decide to do are really funny. There are these two twins at my school. They're hilarious. They do theater, and I've known them since middle school, so they're really funny. And the guy twins quote was, "I'm with stupid," And the girl twins quote was, Zach thinks we're doing our quotes together.
That's amazing.
And I thought that was so funny. And it's killing me to like not tell my friends because like I don't, care if it's on here. Yeah, but like no one cares about this. No, I'm just kidding.
We will hold this episode for like 6 months.
I'm like,
until
okay, y'all
we
just
book
gotta
them.
wait till May when it's released.
Yeah, there we
but
go. That's fantastic.
And thank you for being on the podcast.
Yes.
Do you want to take the monster with you?
I'm still sitting right here.
All right, Cody, go with MC. He's
Bye,
going to have
Cody.
to pee for sure.
That's fun. 2 guests that I would have loved to have had on for different reasons. I don't even have an album in mind for them. My friend Kevin Brewer, I think, would have been fun because he's got such a dry, deadpan sense of humor. He would have been good for like our Beastie Boys episode. Actually, 3 guests. Tom Snow would have been perfect for one. We never got to the Rolling Stones.
No.
And he would have been really good for that.
Which album would you have done?
Really don't know.
Yeah, there's a
It'd be
few.
hard. Stan Brackman, who was drummer back in the day and Technical Difficulties and Troubleshooter and the Funkadelic Chipmunks.
Folks, Matt's band names would come out
every now and then.
And there were more and more. I just never knew how many there were.
Yeah.
So just set the record straight.
Yeah.
Are there any more band names?
I think we've got them all. So Stan was the drummer in Technical Difficulties and Troubleshooter and the Funkadelic Chipmunks and Parasism, which was one which I think we didn't get to.
That, yeah.
And then previously mentioned John Stevenson. He was the drummer in the band Safety, which is a fart game. I think that's all of them.
That's it. Okay.
At this point. So, Stan lives in Dubai. I mean, that would have been just a disaster trying to coordinate a remote, recording from that.
I have a lot of folks that I would have loved to have on. I think the biggest tragedy was that I never had Doug on.
I don't think Doug exists.
Oh, what are you talking about? Every story of mine is from high school and before is with Doug.
I'm thinking there's a little bit there's some Fight Club stuff going on here that you are actually Doug.
Honestly, Doug could have talked about almost any album that I chose. If he had won the listener's choice and we'd done Monster, I would have been tempted to see
We'd have
if
to figure
we
out
could
how to get him
coordinate to have him on.
Yeah.
But I am so thankful for the guests that we did have.
Yeah.
It was so kind of those of you who came on. I mean, a lot of people, it's just like, you want me to what?
Yeah.
And we would just kind of throw a mic in front of them, just be like, all right, we're just going to go. We're just going to talk about it, And so everybody was very brave, very gracious with their time.
Oh, yeah. We've had friends that we've known for a long time come on. And then we've had people that either both of us didn't really know well or one of us did. And we've made friends along the way doing this. But I will say, like, the most fun parts I've had have just really been, you and me just spend this time together talking through these albums. And honestly, it's stuff that no one else is ever going to hear, or some of the most fun parts that we just cut, or were just dumb, inane things that came up that just made us laugh that no one else would think is funny. That's some of the best parts.
You grew up and you've got sports. We played in bands.
Yeah.
You had all your band names. I've got bands I played in, all these experiences. You don't get that as an adult.
No, you
and
don't.
So that's what this has been for us. It's been like we're in a bar band. Even when somebody's like, oh, you have a podcast. I'm like, yes, and I work in podcasting. So let me let you know that it's like I work at a record label, but I have a bar band on the side with my friend. We play covers down at the bar and we have a great time and we just riff and have fun.
There's always an element to it when someone asks me about my podcast. I'm kind of like embarrassed and like, and not because I'm embarrassed, because you've done such an amazing job of editing and producing this thing. It's more of like, I'm not an expert on this stuff. The bar band mentality, that's a great analogy because it's just like, we're just doing this for fun.
Yeah.
What was one of the band names? Like Two Bros,
Two Bums Talk Albums.
Two Bums Talk Albums. I mean, it's kind of that, I'm going to miss it. I'm definitely going to miss doing this. But like, that doesn't mean we can't get together and like talk about music and we just won't record it and edit it. We'll just do it for fun.
This is the kitchen sink. Are we forgetting anything, Matt?
We got to, give a shout out to Matt Wood for allowing us to use radio as our theme song.
Medium Heat.
Medium Heat.
They're still making music. They're still rocking out. They're a great show.
Yeah, they really are.
Go check them out. But yes, big thanks to Matt Wood.
We would totally be remiss if we didn't say thank you to our wives for putting up with this, putting up with the time. Thank you, to your family for especially the last, 2.5, 3 years of recording it here in your studio basement.
Right.
That's not always an easy thing to do. I mean, our wives have been so great, not only just as guests on the show, but for supporting us and allowing us to do this.
They're the best. Oh, there is one more thing to say.
Okay.
That's our real theme
That
song.
is our real
Freak
theme
me.
song.
And if you want to know what that means, well, you're going to have to go back and listen through.
Yeah.
It comes up. That's all of our inside jokes are just built in along the way.
Yeah. If you're listening to like episode 75, you're like, I don't get that joke. Start at the beginning.
Yeah, go back.
Go back and listen. You won't regret it.
Yeah.
Or maybe you will, but I don't think you will.
Thank you to Michael Winslow. Thank you to Billy Ray Cyrus,
Bobby Brown,
Miley Cyrus, and all of her covers.
Yes.
She did do a cover of a replacement song.
Wow.
Thank you to Cher,
the GOAT,
Mark Cohn, the GOAT.
Baby, I've been searching like everybody else.
Kenny G.
Kenny G.
He doesn't realize what an instrumental part he's been in this show.
Thank you to Stephen Shingler, Chris Harrell, Seth Rowe, Matt Purdy, Troy Fairbank, Dwayne Davis, JM, Hayes, Jeff, Micah, Kristen Charity, Matt O'Neill, Matt Wood, Whitney Chambers, Tim Hunter, Michael Johnson, Calvin, Updike, Madison, Allison, Kristen King, the captain, Caleb Smith, Danny Rosen. Thanks to Max, who was our last guest.
Did you mention Taylor?
I think I mentioned Taylor.
Okay.
Those are all of our guests. Thank you all to the Finest Workfans for your interaction, for listening.
Yes.
For participating in the listener's choice.
Thanks for allowing us to do this.
Yeah, Matt, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah. All right.
All right, that's it.
This has been Finest Worksongs. My name is Matt.
My name is also Matt.
Words just don't express how valuable a mule was to this area.